Now let us continue looking at the other components. We just took a look at the button component. Next, let us look at the button group component and let's see how it looks. So I'm going to click on the button group component. So we have the basic button group component, which looks like this or this or this. Like I mentioned before, Material UI components usually have variants, and we can specify which variant we want to use using the variant prop. This button group, whose variant is contained, corresponds to the second button group over here, and this button group with the variant text corresponds to this example over here. And for the first button group, we haven't specified a variant, so that corresponds to the first button group over here. If you scroll further down, you can see that there are more options available to us. Next, let us take a look at the checkbox component. As you can see here, these are the basic checkboxes. Then we have checkbox with form control labels. For example, the checkboxes over here have labels also beside them. And if you scroll down, you can see that there are more customizations that are possible, like where to place the label, etc. Next, let us look at the floating action button component. This is how floating action buttons look like. The component's tag is FAB, short for floating action button. For example, if we examine the code for this floating action button, we can see that the FAB tag has been specified and the color prop has been specified as primary, and within that an add icon has been specified, which is this icon over here. And similarly, this floating action button uses the edit icon. This floating action button has an icon as well as some text within it, and this floating action button is disabled. If you scroll down a little bit, you can see that we can use the size prop for controlling the size of the floating action buttons. Further down, under animation, the documentation says that the floating action button animates onto the screen as an expanding piece of material by default. So the point to note here is that there is some default animation in place already. These are the kind of things that make this library great to use. Next, let us look at the datetime component. As you can see here, to use datetime components, we have to use the Material UI pickers package, and the controls look like this. Let me click on this icon over here. As you can see, once I clicked on the icon, a calendar came up. Let me click on this date picker over here. Again, a calendar has come up, but the way it has been displayed is different. And let me click on the time picker over here. And as you can see here, there is a way to select the hours. So let me change the time to 12. And so the time has changed to 12. And next we have to specify the minutes. So let me select 30 over here. And as you can see, the time has changed to 30. We can select AM or PM over here as well. Next, let us look at the radio component. As you can see here, this is an example of a radio group component, which is used to group radio components. So this is how radio buttons look like if we use Material UI's radio components. There are different options for customizing label placement. If you scroll down a little bit more, there are more customizations that are possible, like showing an error if no value is selected. Let's move on to the next component. Let's look at the select component now. So this is how drop-downs look like when we use Material UI components. Let me click on them to expand them. And as you can see here, these work like drop-downs, but they look much better than normal drop-downs. Next, let us look at the slider component. And as you can see here, there are different kinds of sliders. For example, we can have continuous sliders, which look like this. We can have discrete sliders, which look like this. And if you scroll further down, you can see that there are even more customizations that are possible, and there are examples for each of them. Next, let us look at the switch component. As you can see here, this is how switch components look like. These are switch components with labels. Using the size prop, we can have different sizes for the switch components, and we can also control the label placement for the switch components. Next, let us look at the text field component. And here we have 3 examples of the text field components. Let me click on the first one now. And as you can see, there is a little bit of animation for the label. The label has moved up. Let me click on the second one now, and you can see a similar animation for the label. And let me click on the third one now, which has an outline over here. And as soon as I click on that, the label moves up and becomes a part of the outline. And like I discussed before, we have to use the variant prop to specify which variant we want. For example, the second text field over here is of the filled variant type, and the third text field over here is of the outlined variant type, and the first text field, which did not have the variant specified, is the default one. If you scroll down further, there are even more options to customize the text fields. For example, there is an error prop to show errors. We can have multi-line text fields. We can have icons along with text fields. We can use the size prop to create text fields with different sizes, and so on. Next, let us move on to navigation components. Under navigation components, first let us look at the bottom navigation component. As you can see here, this is what bottom navigation component looks like. Within the bottom navigation tag, we have bottom navigation actions, and for each of them we can specify a label and an icon. For example, this bottom navigation action has the label as recents and its icon is the restore icon. Similarly, this bottom navigation action has the label as favorites and its icon is the favorite icon. And this navigation action has the label as nearby and its icon is the location icon. And using onChange, we can specify an event handler to be executed when one of these actions is clicked. Next, let us look at the breadcrumbs component. The breadcrumbs component looks like this, and it uses the breadcrumbs tag. There are customizations that are possible. For example, we can have custom separators. We can have breadcrumbs with icons. We can have collapsed breadcrumbs, and so on. Next, let us look at the drawer component. Let us look at how a drawer component works. Here we have 4 buttons. I'm going to click on the left button now, and you can see that a menu has appeared on the left. If we click outside, that menu disappears. The drawer disappears. Next, I'm going to click on right, and you can see that the menu appeared from the right side. If we click outside the menu, it disappears. Next, I'm going to click on top, and as you can see, the menu appeared from the top. And next, I'm going to click on this bottom button, and as you can see, a menu appeared from the bottom. So this is how a drawer component is usually used. And if you scroll down, you can see that there are a lot of customizations that are possible with the drawer component. Next, let us look at the link component, and this is how link components look like. And there is documentation about how to integrate with React Router. Next, let us look at the menu component. So this is how menu components look like. Next, let us look at the stepper component. The stepper component is useful if you have a series of steps that a user has to go through. For example, this example shows 3 steps, and currently we are in the first step. If you click on next, you can see that the first step gets a tick symbol and the second step becomes active. At the same time, this back button also got enabled. And if you click next, now the tick symbol is shown for the second step as well, and the third step becomes active. You can see here that the next button is no longer shown because we are in the last step, and also the button label changes to finish. So the stepper component can be very useful if you have a series of steps that the user has to go through. If you scroll down, you can see that there are several customizations that are possible. Next, let us look at the tabs component, and this is how tabs look like. And if you scroll down, you can see that there is a lot of customization that is possible. We can even have scrollable tabs, so we can have right scrolling and left scrolling like this. We can even have vertical tabs like over here, and so on. Next, let us look at some surfaces components. First, let us look at the app bar component. So this is how a simple app bar looks like. And if you scroll down, you can see a lot more customizations are possible. Next, let us look at the card component. So this is how a simple card looks like. A card component will usually have card content and card actions as well. And if you scroll down, you can see that there are more customizations that are possible. Next, let us look at the accordion component. So this is how a simple accordion looks like. And if you scroll down, you can see that there are a lot more customizations that are possible. Next, let us look at some feedback components. The first is progress component. These are examples of circular progress components. There are other variants of the circular progress component. For example, we can have a circular determinate component. That means if we specify the variant value as determinate, then we can specify a value to control how the component looks like. For example, for the value 25, it looks like this. For the value 50, it looks like this. For the value 75, it looks like this. And for the value 100, it looks like this. There are other customizations that are possible. For example, we can have a label like it is shown over here. We can have linear progress components, and they use the linear progress tag. Just like the circular progress component had the determinate variant, similarly, the linear progress component also has a determinate variant, and we can specify a value using the value prop to control how the component looks like. If you scroll down, you can see that there are even more customizations that are possible. Next, let us look at the dialog component. Let us see how a simple dialog looks like. So I'm going to click on this button over here. You can see that this dialog has come up. And if you scroll down, you can see that there are a lot of customizations that are possible. For example, we can specify the sizes of the dialogues. So I'm going to click on this button. You can see that this dialog has opened up. Let me change the value over here from SM to LG, and let's see how it looks like. As you can see, it expanded to the left and the right. Let's change it to XS, and we can see that it has reduced in size. And if you scroll further down, you can see that there are even more customizations that are possible. Let's go to the next component. Let's look at the snack bar component. Snack bars are used to show brief messages. And let's look at a simple snack bar. I'm going to click on this button over here, and you can see that a snack bar has opened in the bottom left over here. We can control the position of the snack bar by specifying a combination of these values. For the vertical position, we can specify top or bottom, and for the horizontal position, we can specify left or center or right. Let's click on these buttons over here. So I clicked on top center, and next I'm going to click on top right, and next I'm going to click on bottom right, and next I'm going to click on bottom center, next I'm going to click on bottom left, and next I'm going to click on top left. And as you can see, using these combinations of values, we can specify where we want our snack bar to be shown. And if you scroll down a little bit, you can see that there are even more customizations that are possible. Next, let us look at some data display components. First, let us look at the avatar component. So we can have some image avatars like this. The tag that is used is the tag avatar. Other customizations are possible. For example, we can have letter avatars. We can control the sizes of the avatars using the height and width CSS properties. We can have icon avatars, and so on. Next, let us look at the badge component. So this is an example of the badge components. These circles over here with the text 4, these are the badges. If we examine the code for this particular badge and mail icon over here, we can see that the badge is the parent component and the mail icon is the child component. And just by specifying the short piece of code, we have a great looking icon with a badge associated with it. And just like with other components, there are a lot of customizations that are possible with these badge components. For example, you can specify a max value using the max prop over here. We can control the badge alignment using the anchor origin prop. For example, here we have specified we want our badge to be in the top right, and that is why all of these badges over here are in the top right. Let us change these options and let us look at how the badges change. As you can see here, I have changed the vertical position to bottom, and now the badges are appearing on the bottom right. Let me change the horizontal value to left, and as you can see, now the badges are being shown at the bottom left. Next, let us look at the chip component. The chip components look like this, and just like buttons, we can have variations of chip components like outline chips, and we can use the size prop to control the size of the chip component. If you scroll down in this chip playground over here, you can play around with these options to see what kind of chip components we can create. Next, let us look at the divider component. A divider is a thin line that groups content in lists and layouts. So these lines over here in this list, these are divider components. They allow customization as well. If you scroll down, you can see that we can have subheader dividers like this line over here, vertical dividers like this line over here, etc. Next, let us look at icons. If we install this package material-ui/icons, we'll get access to a lot of official icons that we can use with our components. Next, let us look at the list component. This is an example of a simple list. If you scroll down, you can see that there are a lot of variations that are possible. For example, this is a nested list. This is a list showing a selected list item, etc. Next, let us look at the table component. This is how a basic table looks like. And just like with other components, this component also allows a lot of customization. For example, we can specify the page size so that we get pagination. We can have dense tables like this table over here. We can have sorting and selecting, and so on. Next, let us look at the tooltip component. Let us look at some simple tooltips. If I hover over this icon over here, we can see a tooltip which says delete. If I hover over this plus icon over here, we can see a tooltip which says add. And just like with other components, this component also allows a lot of customization. For example, we can specify the position of the tooltips. All of these values show the different options that are possible for the positions of the tooltips. If you hover over each of them, you can see that the position of the tooltip is different for each of these different options. If you scroll down, you can see that there are more customizations that are possible. There are more components that are listed under the utils section and the lab section, but we will not go over them now. Once you get started with the Material UI library, you can look at the components in these subsections as well.